Celiac Disease by Devlin and Christina. Jackie is a 16-year-old girl who comes into the doctor's office complaining about bloating, abdominal pain, gas, and diarrhea. She's also a type 1 diabetic. Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease that occurs after eating gluten, a protein found in wheat. An immune system reaction to the gluten gradually damages the villi in the small intestine, making it difficult for the body to absorb certain minerals, nutrients, and vitamins. Physiology of the small intestine. The small intestine is a long cylindrical organ primarily made up of smooth muscle. The broken down food enters from the stomach into the first part of the intestine called the duodenum. Smooth muscle then helps to move the broken down food along the small intestine into the middle and end parts, the jejunum and the ileum. Nutrients are absorbed in the small intestine by villi and microvilli, which line the small intestine. Chemical digestion then occurs. In normal protein digestion, proteins are initially broken down in the stomach by pepsin. The partially broken down food then moves along into the small intestine. Proteins are then broken down by several pancreatic enzymes such as trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidase. These enzymes help to break down the proteins into small polypeptides and peptides. Brush border enzymes such as aminopeptidase, carboxypeptidase, and dipeptidase then continue digestion to break down the small polypeptides and peptides into individual amino acids and some dipeptides and tripeptides. Now that they are small enough, they can leave the small intestine by a facilitated diffusion and enter to the capillary blood, which is in the villi.
Pathophysiology. It initially starts when gliadin, which is a component of gluten, which is digested in the small intestine. It enters the small intestine, and there's often a small breakdown in the intestinal wall. Gliadin then is engulfed by dendritic cells as foreign material, setting off an intense inflammatory response. Gliadin ingestion results in activation of gliadin-reactive T cells in the intestine. These celiac disease T cells then provide help for B cells to produce TG autoantibodies, in addition to promoting a cytokine production to help continue the disease process. Ingestion of gliadin is toxic to the enterocytes, resulting in interleukin-15 release, T and B cell proliferation, cell development, and natural killer cell activation. Symptoms. When the body is affected by celiac disease, many symptoms occur, such as bloating, abdominal pain, diarrhea, and gas. Most of these symptoms occur due to nutrients not being absorbed in the small intestine and because the intestine becomes inflamed. Diarrhea and weight loss are caused by malabsorption. Risk factors. Risk factors for celiac disease would be type 1 diabetes, individuals with HLA-HQA1 or HLA-DQB1 gene, autoimmune thyroid disease, Down syndrome, and Turner syndrome. Homeostasis is interrupted due to the inflammation of the small intestine. This results in nutrients not being able to be absorbed properly. Therefore, the body is then out of balance because the body does not get the nutrients that it needs to function properly.
Cell membranes. In the normal physiology of the small intestine, nutrients are moved through the cell membranes of the small intestine to the cell membranes of the blood, so that the nutrients can then be absorbed and transported around the body. Proteins. Celiac disease is based around the protein gliadin, which sets off the immune response. Proteins are then used in many places in the small intestine, including the enzymes used to break down food normally and proteins that secrete substances into the small intestine. Jackie had a blood test and it confirmed that she had celiac disease. She now has to live a gluten-free lifestyle to prevent any further damage to her small intestine or any other systems.